Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Theresa May is travelling to Dublin tonight to meet the Irish Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar. It's her latest attempt to resolve issues over the so-called Irish backstop, the mechanism to prevent a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic after Brexit. Mr Varadkar was himself in Belfast earlier today, urging political leaders at Stormont to restore the power-sharing executive, which collapsed more than 2 years ago. Our Ireland correspondent, Emma Vardy, has the latest.
Far from the noise of Westminster, it's much quieter here. Because this part of the UK hasn't had a government since the parties fell out over a green energy scheme. That's officially why the Irish Taoiseach came to Belfast. But the tussle over the most controversial part of the Brexit deal took centre stage.
The decision that we've made as a European Union is that the withdrawal agreement and the backstop are not up for negotiation, but we can talk about the joint political declaration and what changes might be made to that.
But Theresa May's partners in government are demanding more than Ireland is willing to give.
The important thing is that the backstop is the problem in the withdrawal agreement for most people in the House of Commons who voted against it by an overwhelming majority, and it is that has got to be addressed.
Well, the DUP are on the wrong side of the argument. The DUP are actively working against citizens here in the north. The DUP are saddling up with the Tories.
So no sign of any quick resolution here. Ticket to Dublin, please. Next stop for Leo Varadkar, it's on down to Dublin. The shuttle diplomacy continues.
This train calls at Dublin Connolly.
From Belfast to Dublin, you'd hardly know you're crossing what will become a new EU frontier. The backstop's a last-ditch measure to ensure no return to border checks in Ireland. But both sides today showed they're still far from reaching a new compromise.
I would congratulate Varadkar on his stance. He's just standing up for Irish interests, both north and south.
Who do you think should give way?
I think London should, really.
Why is that?
Because we want peace to continue. And just if there's any danger of that not continuing, that would be the worry.
As Theresa May heads to Dublin, over dinner, the two Prime Ministers will again try to find common ground, knowing it could affect so many livelihoods if they don't.
We rely heavily on the UK as a trading partner. An awful lot of products from around the world, especially in this business, come through the UK into Ireland. We're quite a small market, so we rely on our larger neighbour.
How do you think people in Ireland will view Theresa May's visit here?
Diplomacy, a show of diplomacy, a show of doing the utmost. Is there anything that can come of it? Probably not.
Both sides have agreed to keep on talking. But hope for the concessions Theresa May needs is in danger of being snuffed out. Well, this is where that private working dinner will take place tonight here in the official Irish state residence. But don't expect any breakthrough tonight. Theresa May will be emphasising the legally binding changes to the withdrawal agreement that she needs to get her deal through Parliament. But it's much more likely that Dublin and Brussels will wait for the outcome of any votes in Parliament next week before anyone makes their next move.
OK, Emma, thank you for that. Emma Vardy there, reporting for us.
Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar says he won't be negotiating Brexit with Theresa May when they meet for a private dinner in Dublin tonight. Mr Varadkar says the meal is an opportunity to share perspectives. Our political correspondent Libby Vina is in Dublin tonight. So, Libby, what do you think will be on the menu?
Well, although officially Brexit won't be on the menu, these aren't negotiations. I think the reality is that the talk across the table will be of little else. What Mrs May wants is some movement on the backstop. She believes that she made a significant concession earlier this week when she went to Northern Ireland and suggested that the backstop should stay, although she's now calling it an insurance policy. What she wants is modifications that would make it more palatable to her own backbenchers. Now, Leo Varadkar himself was in Belfast meeting political leaders there today, and he was still insisting that the withdrawal agreement itself couldn't be reopened. I think Downing Street believes there are several ways in which there could be reassurances about the backstop. I think Mrs May has come here to explore those with Mr Varadkar, and I think also that with the clock ticking, there are just 49 days before Britain is due to leave the European Union. I think that she believes that that will focus minds, not least because if we leave with no deal, then there would automatically be a hard border, precisely what the backstop is designed to avoid.
Libby, thank you.
Now, the Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell is insisting Labour's new Brexit plan could become a reality because it could get the support of enough MPs in Parliament. Earlier this week, leader Jeremy Corbyn wrote to the Prime Minister urging her to back a deal with 5 demands, including a customs union with the EU and a say on future EU trade deals. But the offer to Theresa May, who right now is dining with the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, has gone down badly with some Labour MPs who want to remain. Our political correspondent, Michael Crick, is at a People's Vote event in Exeter tonight. Michael.
Well, I'm in Exeter tonight. Behind me at this theatre is a meeting of the People's Voice, not to be confused with the People's Vote. The People's Voice is an offshoot of the People's Vote, and it's a sort of more reflective campaign made up predominantly of Remainers, but asking why they lost the referendum in 2016, what they should do differently next time if there is a second referendum, as the People's Vote campaign want, how they can heal the divisions in society, how can Britain deal with the reasons why people voted for Brexit in 2016. Tonight's panel is chaired by Ben Bradshaw, Labour MP, a Remainer, in this constituency which voted strongly by 55 to 45 for Remain in 2016. As for events today, well, we were expecting Theresa May to respond to Jeremy Corbyn today. I'm now told that's not going to happen today. In the meantime, the Prime Minister's flown to Dublin tonight to meet Leo Varadkar, no doubt to chat about the Irish backstop and so on. I began the day, however, in Bristol.
Friday, the day MPs get back to their constituencies. In Bristol North West, Labour's Darren Jones has just held his surgery.
Does Brexit come up at all?
Not so much in my casework surgeries, but on the street and in our coffee mornings and in the political meetings we do, absolutely, yeah.
Coffee? Yeah, white please, yeah, white.
Jones, a Blairite, isn't happy with Jeremy Corbyn's letter this week, suggesting how Labour could help Theresa May get her Brexit deal through the Commons. As a Remainer, he wants a second referendum, a so-called People's Vote.
If the Prime Minister can't deliver on this form of a Brexit that Jeremy's put forward, then I expect us to end up in that position. But if the Prime Minister does agree that any proposal is subject to ratification by a People's Vote, then I might consider abstaining on the basis that we get that public vote.
It's not very likely, is it, the Prime Minister's going to agree to that?
Well, I don't think the Prime Minister can agree anything right now, so she may have no choice.
Bristol, and this seat especially, voted strongly for Remain in 2016.
Do you think the Labour should try and help the government get a deal on Brexit, or go for a second referendum?
Definitely think we need a deal, but I'd be quite happy for a second referendum. I think people didn't know what they were voting for.
The people of this country voted to leave. Shouldn't you respect that?
Well, I respect it. We voted to stay, and that's what we wanted. So I'm not in with the Brexit at all. People vote to leave, we vote to stay.
And what about Labour? Do you think Labour are doing what you want at the moment on Brexit?
I'm not quite sure.
Just become aware of Mr Corbyn's recent proposals.
Yeah.
But my issue is that Mr Juncker, the gentleman who's in charge, he's told us no, it's not negotiable, but he's quite happy to negotiate Mr Corbyn's terms, which I find a bit strange.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Corbyn's offer to the PM was strongly supported today by his shadow chancellor, who says the plans could get a majority in Parliament.
These proposals are the ones that we put up in Parliament only a short while ago. We'll put them back to Parliament and see whether or not we can get a majority. Hilary Benn, who's the MP who's the chair of our Brexit Select Committee, said at the beginning of this debate, we're going to have to reach a compromise. Not everyone will get everything that they want. So we believe this is a reasonable compromise that will protect jobs in the economy and could secure a majority in Parliament.
The People's Vote campaign today repeated a second referendum is the only answer. Neither May's plan nor Corbyn's would work, said two peers who were once two of the top officials in Whitehall.
Maybe the Prime Minister is going to make some important move. I don't know. I think Labour have made an important move. I don't myself think it'll work, because I think Mrs May probably will not agree with Mr Corbyn's suggestions. But I think it is constructive of the Labour Party to say what it has. I don't think it's going to get us out of this deadlock.
Today, the Irish Prime Minister met political leaders in Belfast, ahead of meeting Theresa May back in Dublin tonight. But Leo Varadkar made it clear Britain couldn't expect much progress.
I think today is not a day for negotiations. Today is a day for us to share our perspectives and for us to listen to each other. Initially meeting with the four major political parties here in Northern Ireland and later on with Prime Minister May in Dublin. But negotiations on Brexit only happen between the European Union and the United Kingdom.
And the DUP voiced their scepticism of Jeremy Corbyn's proposals.
I read with interest what Jeremy Corbyn has now belatedly come up with as, I think it might be Plan F or G or whatever it is. It doesn't have the support of his own party, obviously, either. But the way to a majority for a deal in the United Kingdom is with the Conservative Party and the DUP. I don't believe Theresa May is going to split her party.
As the Prime Minister set off from her constituency for Dublin this evening, she had yet to react to Jeremy Corbyn's plan. Downing Street say she'll respond shortly.
Well, the other big story tonight is that Luciana Berger, the Labour MP for Liverpool Wavertree, will not now face a couple of motions of no confidence from her local constituency party. This has been a very controversial story over the last 24 hours because Luciana Berger is Jewish and has also been a leading figure in the campaign against anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Time and again she's expressed her view that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour High Command have not been doing enough to root out anti-Semitism in the party, and the suspicion is that one of the motives behind these motions may have been because of that. Well, no, those motions will not now happen after today. She received a huge amount of support from leading Labour figures. Indeed, Tom Watson, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, said that the party in Liverpool Wavertree should be closed down, and he felt that they'd been bullying Luciana Berger. It has to be said, though, that ever since she was selected as the candidate there back in 2010, she has faced critics because in that time people felt she was a bit of a carpetbagger, not from Liverpool. Indeed, she had the problem of not even knowing who Bill Shankly was, the former Liverpool manager. And whether this problem's gone away now, I somehow doubt. And indeed, other Labour MPs may face similar votes of no confidence, particularly those who are suspected of trying to or thinking of leaving the party and forming a new party.
Michael, thanks very much. Well, joining me now are two Labour MPs. Stephen Kinnock, who wants to leave the EU with a Norway Plus style arrangement. He joins us via the internet from Denmark. And here in the studio, Rupa Hug, who backs a second referendum. Let's just go to Stephen Kinnock first. I'm coming to the chasm in the Labour Party over Brexit in a minute, but let's just deal with where Michael Crick ended up there, with the serious divisions between some Labour MPs and their local parties. Luciana Berger being bullied by her local party, the deputy leader says. Why should she stay in Labour, in your view?
Well, I think all the talk of splits is a lot of rumour mongering and you know, the press loves to whip these stories up. There's always conspiracy theories flying around. The fact is that the Labour Party is the greatest force for good in the history of British politics. We have to hold together in order to get rid of this Tory government that is destroying our country. And the best way to do that is to ensure that fantastic, talented, brilliant local MPs like Luciana, who's done so much great work on anti-Semitism, also on raising awareness of mental health issues, that she stays in place. She's got a big majority of her constituents behind her. We've got to stop all of this internecine warfare and get back to focusing on what really matters, which is delivering for our constituents.
Rupert Huck, I know you weren't hearing that answer, but Stephen Kinnock was talking about the importance of the Labour Party keeping together. Rumoured that 6 MPs are preparing to quit over the leader's Brexit stance. Are you one of them?
Certainly not. I mean, we saw from the general election that centrist parties don't have a lot of appeal at the moment. Theresa May keeps saying that 80% of people voted for parties that were respecting the referendum. So I don't see what that would achieve. We've seen the history of the SDP. Why would anyone join a party with no roots, no machinery, no purpose?
Well, then you've got a compromise over Brexit, haven't you, rather than pushing for a second vote still?
Well, I mean, I think the one who's not been compromising is Theresa May, and we're in this pickle because she was well, I mean, there's so many things that she's done wrong.
But you're not compromising either. You're still pushing for a second vote.
In the first place, hence this infernal remarks that's come out from Donald Tusk this week.
We'll put all of that to
but the red line,
but what
she's
about
been a
your
prisoner.
compromise
She's been
over
a
the second
prisoner.
vote?
Well, look, I mean, what I think is whatever comes out of this process, at the end of it, the general public has a right to have a validatory, ratificatory say on this, because they haven't since June the 23rd, 2016, and we've all been on a bit of a learning curve since then.
Stephen, can you say anything to Rupert to convince her that she needs to abandon the second vote idea?
Well, I believe passionately in parliamentary democracy, and I think that it's the job of MPs to address the complex issues that we face across our economy, across our politics. The referendum delivered a result, and the instruction is that we have to sort this out. For me, 52-48 is a mandate to move house but stay in the same neighbourhood. There is a way of leaving the EU which keeps us absolutely in touch with the single market, which is worth so much to our economy, having a form of customs union, but leaving the political institutions, the political project. I think that delivers and honours the result of the referendum, but also doesn't destroy the jobs and livelihoods of the people we were elected to represent. And I think the referendum would be so divisive and would take us back into this endless circular argument. I also think there's a massive question
wait a minute. Let me put that back to Rupert first. What's wrong with that? He sets out a good case.
At the moment, we have no closure on this at all. Nobody really thinks this is going to be sorted by the 29th of March. And we have no clarity because this is a blank check to Theresa May. All of it is fill in the blank stuff. It's a blindfold Brexit and it's a blackmail Brexit, the way that she's trying to strong-arm people or browbeat them
what
into
about
her
that point
deal.
that Stephen made, that it protects the economy but delivers on Brexit? It's a good compromise, isn't it?
Well, then let's put it back. If it's a good compromise, then the great British general public will affirm it in another referendum.
Stephen Kinnock, what are you scared of about putting it back to the people in another referendum?
Well, the mandate is to leave, and the Norway Plus option is leaving. So I don't think there's any need to go back and ask a question about something where the answer has been provided. I think there's also a massive issue around what would be on the ballot paper for a referendum, because I'm not prepared to facilitate anything that leads to no deal being on the ballot paper, because that would destroy the local economy of my constituency and across the country. But I think a referendum that didn't have no deal on the ballot paper would never be considered as being democratically legitimate. So I think there's a dilemma for the People's Vote campaign there that's never really been resolved. And in terms of the blindfold Brexit, precisely by changing the political declaration in the way that we are proposing through Norway Plus, we take the blindfold off. It's absolutely
happy?
Plug into the EEA.
OK, you said you're not prepared to facilitate a no-deal Brexit, but are you happy to facilitate a Brexit that will leave your constituents poorer?
I think that the Norway Plus option has minimum impact on the economy. When we consider what to do about this incredibly complex process that we're in, you've got to take the political considerations and the economic considerations, weigh them up, put them into the mix and come up with a compromise. It's time for British politics to rediscover the lost art of compromise. And that is what the Common Market 2.0 or Norway Plus proposal is all about.
I mean, nobody voted for a Norway Brexit. This is not what we were told. It was meant to be sunny, sunlit uplands and all this kind of thing. I mean, in some ways, Norway is the worst of all worlds because we're still bound by all those regulations and we're paying in. So, I mean, I think there are when you sign any contract, you should read the terms and conditions. If you buy a house, you have a survey. If the thing's riddled with cracks, you don't have to proceed. If you're deleting a file from the computer, it always says, are you really sure you want to do this? Okay. So I think at the end of this, whatever comes out of it, whether it's Norway, Theresa May's deal with some tinkering over the backstop, the public has a right to the final say.
Ruva Huck, Stephen Kinnock, thank you both very much for joining us.